Hi everybody, how are you? I'm Mr. Hassan and we're back here with our fifth lesson, lesson 3.5, absolute value. Today we're going to just need our textbooks. So we're going to talk about absolute value today, and it's probably one of the easiest lessons we're going to have in this chapter. The simplest explanation of absolute value is a number's distance from 0 on the number line. So for example, if I have a number like 5, how far is 5 from 0? 5. So the absolute value of a number like 5 would be 5. The absolute value of a negative number works exactly the same way. If I take a negative number like negative 12 and I say, what's the absolute value of negative 12? How far is negative 12 from 0? Negative 12 is 12 away from 0, so we would say the absolute value of negative 12 is 12. Alright, I'm going to focus our textbooks now on page 115. I'll see you guys in a minute.
Always with you what cannot be done. Hear you nothing that I say. You must unlearn what you have learned.
All right, I'll give it a try.
No, try not. Do or do not. There is no try.
Okay, so we're back here on page 115 in our textbooks, and I'm looking at the Unlock the Problem on page 115. So I'll read. Unlock the Problem. In 1934, a cargo ship called the Mohican sank off the coast of Florida. Divers today can visit the ship at an elevation of negative 32 feet. Use a number line to find the value or the absolute value of negative 32. Notice in the problem that there are straight lines to the left and to the right of negative 32. This lets me know that we are looking for an absolute value. Whenever we're talking about absolute value, we write it with 2 bars or 2 straight lines and close in the number. Alright, so let's follow the steps that the book wants us to do. Graph negative 32, then find its absolute value. The first step says to graph negative 32 on the number line. So I'm going to find negative 30. I know that negative 32 is between negative 30 and negative 40. A little less than halfway between negative 30 and negative 35. Right about there. Close enough. The distance from 0 to the point that I graphed is how many units? Well, here's 0. How far would I have to travel to get from 0 to negative 32? I'd have to travel 32 units. So, the absolute value of negative 32, again, I read absolute value because I know that these bars tell me that I'm looking for absolute value. So the absolute value of negative 32 is 32. Fairly simple. Let's look at the bottom of the page as I slide my book up. All right, that's good enough. Number 1 says the depth of a diver is her distance below sea level. Because depth represents a distance, it is never negative. Find the depth of a diver visiting the Mohican and explain how her depth is related to the ship's elevation of negative 32 degrees. All right, so here I am. The ship's elevation is negative 32 feet. How far would our diver have to be? How deep would our diver have to be in order to be negative 32 feet below sea level? Well, that's the answer. She is 32 feet below sea level. How is her ship's depth? Or how is her depth related to the ship's elevation of negative 32 feet? Well, if she is at the ship, well then she's also at negative 32 feet. And she's at 32 feet below sea level. How is this related to her ship's elevation? What they're saying here is that they want the absolute value. There is no negative value for distance. In other words, she doesn't owe anything. She isn't in a debt of of distance. It's not necessarily a negative number. We use a negative number to talk about distance when we're talking about below sea level, but she's actually 32 feet below the surface of the ocean. So she'd have to swim 32 feet to get back to the top. And that's how her depth is related to this ship's elevation of negative 32 feet. So what they're saying, what they want you to say is that she is 32 feet below the surface of the ocean. The next step says to explain how the expression, the absolute value of negative 32, relates to the diver's depth. Well, we really just did. We're just going to say it a different way. It relates to the diver's depth, right? I just keep breaking my pencil. The expression, absolute value of negative 32, relates to the diver's depth because she is 32 feet below the ocean's surface. All right, I'm going to turn the page and refocus the camera. I'll see you guys in a minute.
To Guardiola, who plays it deep. Saife with a header. Howard gratefully claims it. Distribution, brilliant. Landon Donovan, there are things on here for the USA. Can they do it here? Cross, and Dempsey is denied again, and Donovan has scored! Oh, can you believe this? Go, go, USA! Certainly through! Oh, it's incredible! You could not write a script like this! Well, here's the ball here. Played in, and it comes out here to Landon Donovan, who strikes again. What a golden goal for the USA. If you're just joining us, there it is, the moment, deep into the match to give the USA surely a place in the last 16. It is breathtakingly exciting.
Okay, so we're back here on page 116 of our textbooks. You can find the absolute values of decimals, fractions, and other rational numbers just as you found the absolute value of integers. Example number 1. A food scientist tested a new dog food on 5 dogs. Each dog's weight was monitored during the course of the test. The results are shown in the table. Positive values indicate weight gains in pounds. Negative values indicate weight losses in pounds. Graph the weight changes on the number line, then find their absolute values. So let's look at Buck first. All right, I don't want to lose where I'm at here. Okay, so Buck. The weight change for Buck was 3/4 of a pound. I know that 3/4 of a pound is somewhere between 0 and 1. And it looks like I've got 4 intervals here, so I'm going to count over to 3/4. And I'm going to label this with a B for Buck. Goldie was at negative 5/8 of a pound. Negative 5/8 is going to be somewhere between 0 and 1. Unfortunately, I have fourths here. This is 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4. But I need eighths because my measurement's in eighths. Well, if this is 1/4, I'm going to come over here. I need to figure out what 1/4 equals in eighths. Well, 4 times 2 is 8. 1 times 2 is 2. So these are going to be in intervals of eighths, would be 2/8 for this one, 4/8 for the second one, 6/8 for the third one, and then 8/8 for my next value. So where do I want to graph Goldie? Well, she's at 5/8, so I know she's going to be somewhere between 4/8, which is this guy here, and 6/8, which is this one. So that's where I want to make my mark for Goldie. -5/8. Mackerel is at -1 7/16. -1 7/16. Now I'm going to erase these values here so that we can graph mackerel. There's Buck, there's Goldie. Mackerel is in 16ths, and I know my intervals are in fourths, so I need to convert those to 16ths. Well, that means each one of my marks, well, 4 times 4 is 16, and 1 times 4 is 4. Each one of my marks is going to equal 4/16. So this first one is 4/16. My second one is 8/16. My third one is 12/16. And then -2 would be 16/16. Well, 7/16 is going to fall somewhere between 4/16 and 8/16. So that's where I'm going to make my mark. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to label it with an M for mackerel. Paloma is at 2 1/8. 2 1/8 is going to fall between 2 and 3. And I've already figured out what 1/4 is equal to. Fourths, right? Here's my fourths: 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. Is 1/4 was equal to 2/8. So here's 2/8, 4/8, 6/8, 8/8 to get my whole. So 2 1/8. So here's 2 1/8 would be right around here. And we're going to label that with a P for Paloma. Spike is at -3/8. Again, there's each quarter is worth 2/8. Each quarter is worth 2/8. So here's 2/8, and there's 3/8. -3/8. And I'll put an S for Spike. I might draw a line to this one so I don't get confused with our friend Goldie. All right, so now we're going to answer some of these questions. Think, the distance from 0 to the point I graphed is 3/4. I guess they're talking about the first one there for Buck. Therefore, the absolute value of 3/4 is 3/4. Let's do a couple more. So Goldie was at -5/8. So they're asking us, what's the absolute value of -5/8? Well, here's Goldie. How far is -5/8 from 0? Oh, it's 5/8. 1 7/16 was mackerel. Here's mackerel. How far is mackerel from 0? Well, she's 1 7/16 away from 0. Paloma was, they want to know what the absolute value of Paloma was. Well, if Paloma is at 2 1/8, how far is that from 0? That's 2 1/8. And the absolute value of -3/8 for Spike, how far is -3/8 from 0? It's 3/8 away. And that's absolute value. It's really not difficult. They're just asking us for how far away a number is from 0, whether it's a positive or a negative integer. All right, let's slide up here and look at the third question. Explain how the absolute values of the positive and negative weight changes relate to the starting weights of the dogs. So the positive values are weights gained. Is weight gained? Is weight gained. And negative values is weight lost. I had to think about how to spell lost there for a second. I almost only wrote one S. All right, let's slide up and look at example number 2. All right, example number two says, find all integers with an absolute value of 7. Think, the distance from 0 to integers with an absolute value of 7 is blank units. Well, it's going to be 7 units. So, what could we figure this out? Well, there's going to be 2 7s on my number line. There's going to be a positive 7 and there's going to be a negative 7 that are both 7 units away from 0. Therefore, 7, the absolute value of 7 is going to be 7. And the absolute value of negative 7 is also going to be 7 units away from 0. Therefore, both 7 and negative 7 have absolute value of 7. Paula says that there are always two numbers that have a given absolute value. Is she correct? Yes. Why? Because there is a positive value and a negative value. Oh, you can't see that. I'm going to slide that up. So I wrote yes because there is a positive and a negative value. All right, we're going to look at page 117. Give me a second to get over there, and I'll see you in a minute.
TV lied, man. If you can avoid growing up, do it. I'd give anything to be 12 again.
Okay, so here we are on page 117 of our textbooks. Share and show. Find the absolute value. The absolute value of negative 2. Graph negative 2 on the number line. Negative 2 is blank units from 0. There's 2 units from 0. Therefore, the absolute value of negative 2 is 2. I know this is so hard. Stay with me, folks. Here we go. The absolute value of 6. Well, how far is 6 away from 0? 6. Therefore, the absolute value of 6 is 6. Negative 5. How far is negative 5 from 0 to find the absolute value? It's 5 units away, so the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. Absolute value of negative 11. How far is negative 11 from 0? 11 units. Therefore, the absolute value of negative 11 is 11. Number 5. What is the absolute value of 9? How far is 9 from 0? 9 is 9 units from 0. Therefore, the absolute value of 9 is 9. Number 6. What's the absolute value of negative 15? The absolute value of negative 15 would be 15 because it's 15 units away from 0. All right, I'm going to skip down here to the bottom of the page, numbers 17 through 20. There we go. Algebra. Find the missing number or numbers to make the statement true. Absolute value of some number equals 10. Well, there's 2 possibilities for this answer. 10 could fit in here, and you would have that statement be true, because the absolute value of 10 would be 10. Or negative 10 would also be true, because negative 10 is also 10 units away from 0. Number 18. What's the some absolute value equals 1 78/100? Well, there's 2 possible answers. 1 78/100 is 1 78/100 units away from 0, but so is negative 1 78/100 units. Number 19. 0. Well, there's only going to be one answer for this one. 0. That's it. There's no opposite to 0. It's just 0. Sorry, I just kicked the stand there, made the screen a little shaky. All right, last one. Number 20. Number 20. The blank equals, the absolute value of some number equals 15/16. Again, we're going to have 2 values for this, and it's going to be 15/16, and you guessed it, a negative 15/16. Both of these integers are 15/16 units away from 0. All right, that concludes our lesson 3.5, absolute value. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you next week for lesson 3.6. Mr. Hassan, signing off.
Things are gonna get easier. Child, things will be brighter. Someday we'll get it together and we'll get it all done. Someday your head is much lighter. Someday gonna get easier. Child, things will be right. Someday we'll get it together and we'll get it all done. Someday when your head is what you like.